Hello and welcome to the Pederscope. I am your host, Steve Pederson. We are talking about keys to being the difference. This is episode number 18, entitled Eat for Energy. Thanks for joining me. If you're just getting on board, would love to have you follow me. Let's connect. You can ask any question. Would love to answer any questions. Just interact with you live on the show. It's great to see you, even though I can't see you. It's great to have you with. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the hearts. Appreciate it. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit this morning. We'll edit that out later. All this week, I'm talking about energy and how energy is everything. Right now, there's a lot of energy going on outside. I know on the East Coast, you guys are familiar with snow. We're getting a little bit of snow here this morning in Chicago. One of the huge factors that affects our energy is, of course, the food that we eat. I think we have an opportunity to understand. Let's just kind of start out, before we even dive into this topic, to even think about the concept of what is food for? Why do we even eat? What is this process all about? And I think when we think about it, there's a really cool element to it. See, because we are, of course, living beings. And in order for us to continue to live, we need to take other living things into our bodies. It's kind of a wild it's kind of a wild concept, but it's actually a very sacred process because we're dealing with life here, and all life is sacred. And so when you think about eating as a sacred endeavor and your body as a temple, it becomes you start thinking about the things that you put into your body on a whole new level. Now, some of you might feel like, okay, my body feels more like a garage or a storage shelter than it does a temple. That's fine. It's not a permanent structure. This organism that we have, this body, is constantly changing. The cells are constantly reproducing. One of the things that I heard is that every 7 years, because of the reproduction of our cells, we actually have an entirely new body. That kind of blows my mind. That's a fascinating fact. But those cells, they need energy and they need something living. And that's why we take in food. And when we take in food together with family and friends, it becomes this great sacred ritual. And I've started to kind of open my eyes to that, and it's a really, really cool thing. But you are what you eat. And that is a very sobering, wanderings. Oh, thanks, Corey just joined us. Thanks, Corey, for joining us. We're talking about eating. We're talking about eating for energy. Everything is energy, and so we got to think about what kind of energy we're putting into our bodies. I want to tell you a little bit of a story here. It's really kind of crazy. Many years ago, over a decade ago, my wife and I, we love Mexican food, and I had eaten this very large burrito and gotten really stuffed, really full. And of course I felt really full, but the thing was, for several days afterwards, I was feeling full and kind of bloated, and so I went to see a doctor about it. It's like, Doc, what's going on? And he said the very strangest thing to me. He said, I think you might be depressed. I was like, depressed? You got that from, I got depressed from eating a burrito? That wasn't what's going on here. Who is this doctor? And he said, well, let me ask you this. Have you ever done any research on what causes depression? I was like, well, no, I haven't. So he said, well, I would encourage you to go do some research on what causes depression. And so I did. And what I found out is that there is a correlation between depression and vitamin deficiency. And thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And it talked about 4 major contributors to vitamin deficiency. And those 4 major contributors are caffeine, processed sugar, nicotine, and alcohol. At that time, 3 of those 4 things were a major part of, well, maybe not a major part, but definitely a part and a daily part of my intake, what I was putting into the system of my body. Every day I would have like 2 cups of coffee with cream and sugar. So there was my caffeine and my sugar. And then at the end of the day for dinner, I would have like a beer or a glass of wine or something. And I'm not saying this stuff is terrible and bad. I'm just saying I had an opportunity to look at this and say, well, what if I took these things out of my diet for just say a month? What if I just took a 30-day kind of a cleanse and got these 3 elements out of my system? What would that look like? What would that feel like? I'm curious. Let's find out. And so I did it, and of course for the first couple of days I had pounding headaches because of the caffeine withdrawal. Probably for about a week or so I went through the just worst withdrawal of my life from this caffeine, and it was just horrible. But after a week or two, all of a sudden I noticed that I felt absolutely amazing, like just a complete difference in my energy levels. That was back in 2012. That was it was actually October of 2012. So a little over 13 years ago, I quit caffeine and I have not gone back to it. So for the last 13 plus years, I've been without, sans caffeine, and it just feels great to be able to get up in the morning and just drink a glass of water and go and have a great day. So we're talking about eating and drinking for energy. So watching what you put into your system, very important. This is I know this is probably stuff that you've heard before, but it's a great reminder. One of the things I want to ask you is the food that you eat. Do you read the label of the ingredients that are in the food that you eat? My thought is that if it's something I don't understand what it is, it's probably not going to be the best thing for me. Is the ingredients in your food, are they something that happen naturally, or are they chemicals? Can you pronounce the ingredients? So just some things to think about. And this topic of eating for energy even touches on the topic that we talked about yesterday, which was being in good company, the kind of company that you keep. Look at the kind of food that your friends and family eat, because that's going to influence you. Your friends and family have a lot of influence on you, and one of the things that they influence is the kind of food that you eat. With my family, it's obviously much easier that we all eat the same food. It's hard to make separate dinners for every single person. So if you're in a family, you're probably all eating the same thing. Obviously, the key, how is this a key to, being the difference? Obviously, without sustained energy, you're not going to be able to let your light shine. Your light is going to be dimmed, and you won't be able to have that energy. Here's my thought for you today, to an action that you can take. Write down on a piece of paper everything that you eat today. You don't have to change anything. Let's not start with going crazy and changing all of our eating habits right away. Let's just start with an awareness. Write down what you eat. Take a look at the label. If you're eating something that's packaged, read the ingredients. Just observe. Be aware of the things that you're putting in your body. Do that for just one day. If you want, do it for a few days and just observe. See what happens. I think you'll find that even just the awareness of what you're putting in your body will help you be more conscious and think, you know what, I want to take care of the temple. I want to be filled with energy. I want to eat for energy. I want to be a part of this sacred ritual where I take something living. Here's a thought. If the things that you eat, if they can stay on a shelf for like a year, that's probably not the thing that you really want to be putting in your body. The shelf life of the things that you eat. If it's something that it's so good when it's first picked, that's the kind of stuff that you want to be eating. So thanks, guys, again, for joining me for another Pederscope. This has been another key to being the difference, eating for energy. All of my previous Pederscopes on this topic can be found at my website, which is stevepederson.com. stevepederson.com. Would love to connect with you there as well. I'm here every weekday morning at 8:35 a.m. Central Time to bring you another key to being the difference. Hope to see you next time. Take care.